Finally, turn-based combat is back. For years, turn-based systems have got a bad rep for being slow and outdated, but now Clair Obscur Expedition 33 is here, completely flipping the script and even unseating Final Fantasy VII as the king of turn-based combat. Today, we're diving deep into why abandoning turn-based combat systems nearly cost classic franchises their soul, and why this fresh new approach might just be the future. Welcome back to Gaming Red-Handed. My name is Simon Redhand, and today we're going to be talking about Expedition 33. First, a bit of history. Turn-based combat was born from the deep strategic roots of tabletop games like Dungeons & Dragons, where every move was planned like a chess match. These methodical battles rewarded careful planning and turned each decision into a high-stakes moment, letting players, armed only with their imagination, create epic encounters that could rival the best choreographed fights found in your favorite anime or action movies. But then, with the advent of gaming platforms like Super Nintendo, that raw imagination began to be replaced with flashy graphics and incredible music scores. The once visible dice rolls went behind the scenes, transformed into RNG, and your turn became governed by wait timers. When the first JRPG started hitting the scenes, gamers were completely amazed. Not only were they treated to amazing stories coupled with fantastic cinematics, they were also treated to incredible action sequences, all by inputting an attack command and watching the magic unfold. However, as action RPGs exploded onto the scene, gamers began craving faster, more visceral experiences. Even legends like Square Enix, whose early titles embraced tactical combat, gradually shifted towards real-time action. Look at Final Fantasy VII Remake. It blends classic turn-based elements with immediate on-screen action, suggesting that the old school was fading away until now. Let's talk about the benchmark. Final Fantasy VII. Its active time battle system wasn't just a mechanic, it was an art form that infused every battle with urgency and layers of strategy, making every decision feel high stakes. When the remake was released, it didn't simply update the graphics, it reimagined the combat by blending seamless real-time movements with the classic command-based tactics we all loved. For decades, Final Fantasy VII wasn't just another title, it was the standard for every RPG that followed. I was genuinely excited for Square Enix to further build on the innovative combat introduced in the remake. So when Final Fantasy XVI was announced, I had high hopes. Unfortunately, that promise was left on the cutting room floor, and we never saw the expansion of that groundbreaking system. Square Enix decided to move away from what once defined the Final Fantasy series. Back when the series' heart was firmly in turn-based combat, even its MMORPG titles, Final Fantasy XI and Final Fantasy XIV, strived to recreate that thoughtful, tactical experience. These games reminded us that every battle was meant to be a carefully choreographed dance of strategy. Then came Final Fantasy XVI, a title that isn't just different, it's on a whole nother level. I started jokingly calling it Devil-May God of War because it was so obvious that Square Enix was taking the franchise in a radically new direction. Final Fantasy XVI delivers the combat with the flash and speed of Devil May Cry, combo points and all, with simplified skill trees and weapon swaps reminiscent of God of War. It even comes with a protagonist plus partner dynamic, with the introduction of Torgal the Wolf, playing an integral role in your combat experience, mimicking the dynamic of Joel and Ellie or Kratos and Atreus from God of War and Last of Us. That flashy, real-time focus feels less like Final Fantasy and more like a chase after the current RPG trends that PlayStation was pumping out at the time. It felt safe, and frankly, a bit lazy. I believe this gross detour from what longtime Square Enix fans expected is why the game didn't resonate with many, leaving fans longing for the strategic depth of an earlier era. Final Fantasy XVI marked a bold, if risky, leap away from its turn-based roots. In early interviews, producer Naoki Yoshida made it clear that modern players, especially the younger crowd, demand fluid, instant action. While he never outright declared turn-based combat is dead, his words were unmistakable. They grew up playing first-person shooters in games like Grand Theft Auto, where you press a button and something happens immediately. That radical shift stripped away the measured, strategic depth that many fans once adored. It reeks of what happens when a studio chases trends over their original passion, constantly searching for a new audience while forgetting the ones that brought them to the party. Just look at what happened to former legends like BioWare. They used to be known for rich storytelling, even going so far as to say that storytelling is the fourth pillar of game design, along with gameplay, character development, and world building. They understood that telling a story was just as important as the combat and gameplay. Man, I miss BioWare. They used to be my favorite studio. To this day, I still hope that one day EA will reboot and remaster Star Wars The Old Republic, one of the greatest Star Wars video games ever made, as a single-player experience, but I doubt they will. That much is clear since they've turned their attention to creating microtransaction cash grabs like Anthem, a game completely devoid of the narrative heart that once defined them. And then they stumbled even further with Dragon Age The Veilguard. It became painfully clear that they lost sight of what made their earlier work so special. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for change. Experimentation and pushing the boundary are essential, but a studio should never abandon its core elements that made them great in the first place. You need to leave the party with the very people who got you there, which is why the direction shift of Final Fantasy XVI was so silly. Naoki Yoshida was chosen to run Final Fantasy XVI because Final Fantasy XV performed so poorly, and the only Final Fantasy title that was holding the studio together was Final Fantasy XIV, an MMORPG that's still among the top 5 today and firmly rooted in turn-based combat. I was excited when Naoki Yoshida was appointed director of Final Fantasy XVI because I was expecting a single-player, story-driven Final Fantasy experience. Instead, I got Devil May God of War. One of the most exciting things about Clair Obscur is how it reinvents turn-based combat for a modern audience. Instead of locking you into rigid, drawn-out menus, the game gives you full control over the pace. Whether you want to strategize each moment with deliberate, calculated moves or pick up the tempo to launch into near instant action, Clair Obscur adapts to your playstyle without missing a beat. It's as close as you can get to an action-based system without sacrificing the strategic, thoughtful decision-making that defines classic turn-based games. The way it accomplishes this is brilliant. First, when the battle starts, every menu is assigned an intuitive shortcut key. This is the first step to making turn-based combat feel like an action game. If you just want to speed through battles, simply mash the A button on your gamepad or press the F key on your keyboard to execute basic attacks. There's an alternative range attack called free aim, which you engage by pressing the right mouse button or the right trigger, just like a modern FPS. The free aim mechanic is used to do massive damage to certain enemies when you shoot their weak spots. There are only 3 items in the item menu, and it's static. You never have to fumble through options mid-combat. Instead, you use what is known as pictos, passive enhancements, to add additional effects to the items. While quest items may boost those effects, the basic foundation remains the same. You're not burdened with tracking a multitude of consumables like eye drops, echo potions, hyper potions. Open the item menu and you have 3 constant choices: healing tint, energy tint, or revive tint. Essentially options to restore health, replenish mana, or revive fallen party members. Mana in this game being action points. When it comes to skills, Clair Obscur offers a vast library to choose from, but only 6 skills can be assigned to your action page in fixed positions, essentially your keybinds. For example, by my L, the first page is dedicated to applying burn stacks, while the second page features a skill that increases damage and then consumes them. This setup lets me rely on muscle memory to select my next move, ensuring that the battle flows smoothly without breaking my focus. And it doesn't stop there. Once you choose a skill, you get the opportunity to augment it with a quick time event. Landing anywhere near perfect is fine, but hitting perfect usually extends the combo, adds extra effects, and boosts the damage. With some skills, however, missing the quick time prompt can have dire consequences. The hotkey system slashes through the old, clunky pauses. It delivers combat that's just as fast and fluid as an action game, all while preserving the strategic layers that you love. You're always locked in, every move matters, and there's barely any downtime, even on defense, so you better learn how to dodge. Parrying, dodging, jumping, and executing what's known as a gradient parry are all critical for your survival. Rather than watching your character take damage and hoping that random chance will save you, the game forces you to actively dodge and parry, or risk dying. It keeps you fully engaged while remaining firmly rooted in turn-based mechanics. Time-based parries always trigger a counterattack, but the window is incredibly tight, and missing a parry is extremely punishing. Dodging might be a safer option, yet it still demands precise timing. Every new enemy introduces a new, unique attack pattern. On expert difficulty, the game offers you no cues or hints about how to defend yourself correctly, so you must learn through experience. And even though Clair Obscur employs a speed stat to determine turn order, you're never left waiting. Skills execute instantly on your character's end. So as long as you remember your hotkeys, you can swiftly move through battles without the need to constantly toggle menus. This is especially beneficial during long farming sessions, allowing you to maintain a fast pace while seamlessly managing your defense. Once you master the defensive mechanics, the game becomes entirely skill-based, letting you take on enemies you normally avoid, provided you have the patience to break them down. Clair Obscur doesn't use any classes. Instead, every member of your party has their own unique playstyle and skill tree. That individuality shapes your overall build and strategy for tackling the game. When I first started leveling up and earning skill points, I viewed each party member as an isolated entity, scrutinizing their skills to decide what seemed cool for when their turn came up. I quickly discovered that this approach was a mistake. Now, I look at my entire team as a single entity, choosing their skills and pick those to maximize synergy. Let me explain what I mean by synergy. If your party doesn't work well together, you might end up with members floundering or even counteracting one another. When I first added Verso to my team, I wanted him to focus on break, what this game called its stun meter, while Luna and Mael specialized in burn stacking. Because of this disconnect, Verso was never able to actually break enemies, which means he couldn't trigger one of his powerful skills, Perfect Break, that relies on foes being stunned. And when I tried to add more break synergy using Luna, I couldn't match the damage I was getting from stacking burns on Mael. It wasn't until I changed my approach, recasting all three and choosing skills that complemented one another, that I finally achieved effective team synergy. Just a quick note, the game refers to respecking as recasting. You get plenty of opportunities to experiment with different builds. So if you want to focus on being Ice Queen with Luna, go for it. If you want a pure redirect tank build with Mael, the choice is yours. Finding a new weapon can also change how you play your character, and I'm glad the devs aren't stingy with the recast items, so you aren't afraid to experiment with your builds. Now, my Verso is set up to whittle away enemy armor. In this game, each piece of armor on the target blocks one attack. I set him up so that he has high starting AP so that he can unleash a ridiculous number of free aim shots, allowing him to tackle enemy armor early, and thanks to his Pictos, he can also inflict burn and apply marks, the latter causing his next attack to deal double damage. This approach synergizes perfectly with Mael and Luna. Mael is my heavy hitter. She focuses on stacking burns as high as possible, while Luna not only applies burn stacks, but also deals damage over time with Earth Tremor, which further contributes to breaking down enemy defenses. In short battles, by the time Mael's turn comes around, we're already cleaning up. However, in boss battles every few turns, Luna's damage over time eventually stuns the enemy, allowing Verso to truly open up and shine with his Perfect Break. This seamless balance lets you enjoy dynamic, fluid combat that is both adrenaline-fueled and deeply tactical. Truly the best of both worlds. Now, let's pull back the curtain on this incredible team behind Clair Obscur. Its director, Guillemine Broche, a bored ex-Ubisoft developer if you will, decided he had had enough of the old formulas. Starving for an innovative turn-based RPG, Broche set out on a mission to reinvent the genre, and he did it in an unconventional way. By searching for raw talent in unexpected places, he discovered the game's phenomenal composer Lorien Tessert on SoundCloud. Lorien, who had been uploading his homemade tracks online, went to deliver an astonishing 8 hours and 9 minutes of music across 154 tracks. And get this, Broche even found the lead writer Jennifer Svedberg-Yen from a simple Reddit post when she auditioned for a voice acting role. This offbeat recruiting spree isn't just quirky, it's pure genius, proving that sometimes great talent really does hide in the unlikeliest of corners. So, what do you guys think? Was Square Enix's move away from turn-based combat a huge misstep? Can Clair Obscur really revive the strategic soul of your favorite RPGs? Drop your comments down below. I'd love to get the debate going. And if you guys enjoyed this deep dive, hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the bell. I will be 100% completing Clair Obscur and sharing my footage on the channel. I plan on editing it in a cinematic way so you won't have to watch me slog for 100 hours of grinding. Be sure to drop by and check it out. Have yourselves a good morning. And if this is the only video you're watching me today, a good afternoon or good night.